Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Wira, a Malaysian action film from 2019 that has martial arts choreography from Indonesian star Yayan Ruhian himself from the Raid movies. So this movie should pique the interest of action movie fans worldwide because of his participation in it. Now the story centers around an ex-military character named Hassan, who has left his family when he was younger, and he became a military man to overcome his demons and to escape the injustice towards his family and community, committed by a local criminal by the name of Raja. Now, after his stint in the military, Hassan returns to help out his family and settle a debt owed by his sister Zain, who recently lost a mixed martial arts match. So Hassan and Zain must fight their way through Raja's foot soldiers in order to clear their debt and destroy this villain's influence in their community. Now this film, immediately, like within the opening minute, it opens with a very impressive mixed martial arts match in like an octagon fighting ring between two ladies. Very nicely choreographed and hard-hitting stuff. Definitely gets the movie off to a good start because you realize these filmmakers are not messing around, all right? Remember, Yayan Ruhian is the fight choreographer, Mad Dog from the Raid. So we get some high-quality fighting in this movie with some precise choreography. Now, the second fight in the film takes place in like an old, decrepit manufacturing plant of some kind. It's a good scene, but it also exposes my one problem with the action in this film: undercranking, which is basically another term for sped-up photography. So this movie, at times, does artificially speed up the photography a little bit, presumably to make the fights a little bit faster. Okay, this is not a new filmmaking tactic at all. I mean, Hong Kong movies were occasionally doing this back in the 80s and 90s. Even some of Donnie Yen's earlier films use some undercranking in them. But it can be distracting at times, depending on how it's used, when it's used, how the scene is filmed and choreographed, all that type of thing. Now, this film, Wira, does use undercranking at times, like I said, and it's most noticeable in this second scene at the warehouse. It looks like you click a fast forward button on your Netflix player and have the scene speed through at 1.5 times. That's what it looks like. And the reason I think it's probably distracting in this scene is because the actors are doing more than just fighting. Like, the dude might knock somebody out and then run, because it's in a manufacturing type plant. He'll like run across a railway and then down some stairs, or maybe jump off a ledge. And some of those parts are also sped up with photography, which is kind of odd. And that's where it gets a little distracting there, a bit odd. So this scene is the one where it's still a good fight, but it seems a little unnatural. And there are plenty of times in this movie where no sped up photography is used, and the fights are still really good. So I'm not sure why they even bothered to use it at all, to be honest with you. They should have just not used it at all. But the action really ramps up at about the 45-minute mark with a 2-on-2 mixed martial arts match in the octagon fighting ring again. And that's between our protagonist and another man-woman duo. Then that quickly transitions to a fight on a moving bus where the crap hits the fan and the conflict just gets out of control. Things get really serious. So the cool thing about the movie, though, is that since our protagonists are like a brother-sister combo, they fight together throughout much of the second half of the film. So we get lots of like 2 versus many fights and 2-on-2 fights instead of the typical 1 versus many or, 1-on-1 fight. So I like that. It kind of mixes things up, and it kind of helps them, it helps the chemistry between those two as well. It's pretty cool. They fight well together. So the entire second half of this movie is basically, it's loaded with fun fights, okay? The final fight in this movie, damn. The final fight in this movie is really good. And even with the occasional sped-up photography issue, it's still one of the better final fights in recent memory in movies, in my opinion. I'm not over-exaggerating. It's really good. and it gets you kind of pumped up, and it keeps going, and when it's done, you're satisfied. So in addition to action choreographer, Yayan Ruhian has a supporting villain role, and you'll see him early on. He doesn't do a whole lot, but when this final fight hits, he gets a chance to shine. He's tough. So again, that's something to look out for. So overall, I think the action in this movie really does deliver, and it's of a very good quality, especially the choreography, the way it's shot and everything, just with the exception of that undercranking, sped up photography issue that will pop up at times. But I still think the action in this is very good stuff. Script and characters, pretty basic, but the protagonists are likable, and they have a few good dramatic moments as well. Like I said, they have this brother-sister dynamic, and I liked it because the sister is kind of a hothead, gets into trouble sometimes. The brother, on the other hand, tries to avoid conflict, which doesn't really work out well for him because he's basically just forced to fight throughout the film. But it's a good little dynamic there. They butt heads a little bit, but they also bond, and it's good stuff. Even the father character, they have this other little dynamic where the father is very he's got that old school, this neighborhood's my home. This jerk, that villain, is the one who should move out of town. I shouldn't be the one who moves out of town. But the son, our main character, is like, listen, Dad, wouldn't it just be easier to move somewhere else? You know what I mean? So there's that dynamic too. And I like the character relationships in this. I think the protagonists are likable. Not especially complex, but I like them. So again, we have a director here to look out for. Adrian T. I probably butchered that, but he previously directed The Noise from 2015, which is not a good horror film. I reviewed that in my Asian horror playlist. And then he also reviewed or directed a movie called Pascal in 2018, which had its moments. It's a better film than The Noise is. It's an action film. But still, there were parts in that film that really dragged, especially the middle section. Man, I was almost falling asleep during the middle of that movie. But it does have its moments. Not a bad flick. So I think this film, Wira, is just a big step up. I think he found his rhythm and his groove with this movie. You know what I mean? There's still a few things he can improve on, but this is very entertaining stuff. It moves. I think the pacing is really nice. Tons of really good quality action. The characters are interesting enough and likable. So I look forward to seeing what this guy does next. If he models his next film off of this one, I'm going to be excited, especially if he gets some of the team members back. You know what I mean? That would be cool. If he goes in the direction of Pascal, I'll be a little less excited about it. But with this film under his belt, I think he's going to be, who knows, he might get on a hot streak of entertaining genre films. So we'll have to look out for it. We'll see. So I strongly recommend Wira. You know what I mean? If you can handle a little bit of the undercranking, it's really entertaining stuff. It's available on Netflix streaming in the United States. If you like martial arts flicks, check it out. And as always, we'll see you next time.